That's a really good question. I think that the real issue and the real premium for companies in the, particularly in this day and age, is on understanding their priority uses, their risks, and an approach that's realistic for them for how to use these technologies and integrate them into their businesses. And when you do that, and we can then help them identify some of the common themes and proposed regulations and learnings from what has gone well and what has not gone well in other contexts, you start to see a roadmap emerge that has sort of the right contour for businesses, because not all businesses are the same. We know that, and not all technologies are the same. We know that. And how to navigate as a business is becoming harder. So creating these roadmaps that are very specific and contextual becomes a little more difficult, but also a little more important. And so that's how we really start. So building realistically based on the needs, priorities, risks, and frankly, resources of a particular business is really the place to start with that successful implementation. And we're seeing more and more examples of it. So things are starting to get exciting in that way. It'll be different, I think, is the biggest prediction. So mostly that it will change. Some very smart people are studying the difference between tasks and jobs, right? That tasks will change before jobs change. And I think the sort of conventional wisdom is that the dislocation is likely to come from workers who know how to manage with and work with these tools and workers who don't. So there's a rush to build capability in that sense. I don't think that's the complete answer, though. I think that's part of the answer. How our day-to-day, so how our work is going to change sort of will be a function of why these tools are powerful in the first place and what they're good at and what they're not really good at. And one of the things they're really good at is repetitive tasks, where we have a really good sense of what good looks like, right? So something we do over and over and over again. That's the promise of AI, to remove or reduce tedium and improve performance where humans get fatigued or uneven. There's some other challenges that AI has in those contexts, but that's one context in which AI is very good, and we could roughly call that automation. Another area is in idea generation. We see that a lot, which is the first draft machine, and it's quite good at being a first draft machine at this point. Not perfect, and again, challenges with it, but it's got a lot of utility there, and we can see the promise for it. Lots more utility will evolve, but when you look at those two, sort of the automation and the first draft machine, you can start to see the aspects of jobs that will change. What the important thing too about the actual nature of work, though, for humans, is that we're gonna have to think harder, right? And nobody really talks about that it's sure, it's gonna remove some tedium, and sure, it's gonna make us quicker off the mark in some tasks, but we're gonna have to think a lot harder about the quality of the information we're getting back and the answers that the models are producing, the appropriateness of them, how those models generated those answers. Our critical thinking, what is the sensitivity for the task I'm doing? So for instance, if I'm building a recommender engine, and it doesn't much matter if I get it right or sort of right, I may not have to overly scrutinize the outputs of the model or how I asked the question in the first place. If I'm doing something more impactful, like deciding a loan application or admitting somebody to a school or a work program or benefits eligibility, I've got to be really careful about how I ask the questions, what model I ran on, what data it was trained on, all those sorts of things. And I think we're all going to have to get a lot better at interrogating these models and these tools in ways that are much more cognitively active, honestly. And so we've got to get about training people how to do that and creating systems that tolerate that sort of interrogation. And that's across disciplines and industries. Well, I mean, really start with the why and the what, right? I mean, if we reground in existing principles and values, and most companies and leaders have established those in one shape or form. We've got to start there. Sometimes those values and missions and principles need to be updated and revisited and modernized, but starting there is a grounding place. I think from there the ethical use or the responsible use is really a function of, again, asking lots of questions and creating opportunities for those questions and that learning to happen. Some of the questions are going to be hard questions, and so there's a tendency to want to avoid them. I think the better approach is to figure out, both operationally and culturally, and to some degree, we can't avoid the sort of emotionally. This goes back to that anxiety that everybody's kind of got a little bit of it. How do we confront those hard questions and help lead our people through them? Whether our people, like I said, are employees or customers or kids or students, or patients. There's an opportunity for people with the cultural responsibility for the ethics of an organization to really step into that and create new kinds of relationships and appreciation, quite frankly, with the people that they impact. Because, like I said, everybody's anxious about it, and I think I tend to think of this as an opportunity to do this also in a way that is integrated with innovation. I think there are a lot of false choices running around, and one of the ways businesses can use artificial intelligence ethically is by understanding that this is part of innovation, right? It's not opposed to innovation, and it's a little bit like the braking system on a car. It's not. You go slow so you can go fast, not just to go slow. And we've got to kind of shift our mindset a little bit about that. And once we do those two things, we reground in our values and our principles, we understand and ask a lot of questions about the technology and what it's doing. And then we sort of muster the strength and the culture to confront the hard questions and lead. I think we start to see a real path forward for this, what is loosely called sort of the ethical use of these very frontier technologies. That's a really great question. I think mostly that, this is indeed an exciting time, and it's different. We're paying attention for a reason. We all need to engage that 100%. That every single person has a role to play, and it's going to have to figure out their relationship to these technologies and what small g governance means for them. Like what kinds of quality demands and performance demands and integration do they want to do with these technologies, because they're very distributed and they're not going away. That there's plenty that we can already do and that is sensible and sort of within our grasp, things that we already know how to do. We just need to kind of apply them in new ways. I think that curiosity and a little bit of humility are our friends in this, that we want to go forward with caution and increasingly with confidence, but well-founded confidence, and we can do that. And that leadership is going to take lots of forms, right? That this is going to come up in lots and lots of ways. And as I said, everybody's going to have a role to play, and that's really our path forward at this point.